Hi, I'm Lola Odelola, and today I'm going to be talking to you about getting involved with web standards. I am a web developer advocate at Samsung Internet, and I am also the co-chair of the Developer Council at the W3C. I will be talking a bit about what the W3C is a little bit later, but first, what's Samsung Internet? Well, we are a browser that's available on Android devices. You can download us through the Google Play Store. And the unique thing about us is that we value privacy a lot. And so we have features such as the Smart Anti-Tracking feature, which prevents websites and third-party trackers from tracking you through the internet, which means they can't build a profile on you if you don't want them to do that. As I mentioned, we are available on all Android devices through the Google Play Store, and if you have a Samsung phone, then the Samsung Internet browser is already on there, so you can just start using. So let's get into today's talk. What are web standards? Well, first let's backtrack. The W3C. So you may have heard of the W3C before, you may not have. A lot of people don't know who we are, what we do. The W3C stands for the World Wide Web Consortium, and this is where a lot of the discussion happens about how the internet should be used. So what are web standards? Well, according to the W3C's website, W3C standards define an open web platform for application development that has the unprecedented potential to enable developers to build rich interactive experiences powered by vast data stores that are available on any device. First of all, there should be a lot more commas, or at least a full stop somewhere in that paragraph. But it sounds kind of convoluted, right? So I've tried to distill it down to a little bit more simpler what the W3C and what web standards are. So if we remove all the fluff, we get the W3C standards define an open web platform for application development to enable developers to build interactive experiences that are available on any device. So the things that we need to, pay attention to here in this definition are define and web. So really, standards define an open web platform specifically. So we're not talking about mobile apps here, we're not talking about Internet of Things or any other thing that's connected to the internet. We're specifically talking about the web and browsers, really. And standards define that platform. So it defines how it should be used, how the tools should interact, how web applications should be built for the web platform. That's kind of what standards are in a nutshell. They're rules for how applications should be built for the web platform. So this is an example standard. This is the CSS style attribute standard. And here we can see that it has the version, the latest version, editor's draft, previous version, current editors, previous editors, test suites, and all of this. And if we scroll through, we can see that in the introduction, we are getting a definition of what this rule is, what this standard is. So here we are specifically defining the style attribute. If you've ever seen some HTML, you'll see the style. You can add style as an attribute to a tag. And we are seeing now how this syntax should be defined. How should we use this style attribute? This is exactly what this standard is going through and explaining, and if you have some time you can sit down and read through it as well. So how do web standards work? Well, there are three different types of groups. If you wanted to be part of the W3C, you can join one of three different types of groups: working groups, community groups, and other kinds of groups. There are more than three, and I've been lazy and just put the rest under other because I don't think they're quite as pertinent to this talk, but I will cover them briefly. So the first kind of group is a working group. Working groups require membership. And what does that mean? So your company has to pay W3C to be a member organization. That's how we fund the work that happens within the W3C. And so depending on the size of your company, the location of your company, profits and revenue and income for your company will depend on how much your company has to pay to be a member. But assuming your company is a member of the W3C, then you can join a working group. And working groups are where deliverables are produced for the most part, right? So we're talking about finalized standards like the CSS style attribute one we just saw. We're talking about software if necessary, testing suites if necessary, technical reports, things that practical deliverables that we can say this is the work we are sharing, we are giving to the web community at this time. Community groups are different. You do not have to be part of a member organization to be part of a community group. Anybody can join a community group. I'm a part of a few community groups, well, one in particular. And yeah, anyone can be a part of a community group. Community groups are good entryways into standards because this is where proposals for standards are usually introduced. Here is where we kind of get community feedback if this is something the community wants, any questions the community may have. And I'm using community very broadly here because it encompasses many groups of people. So developers, web users, people who are not technical or who wouldn't class themselves as technical. We're talking about people who may use just this one specific technology and maybe nothing else, or who this technology impacts their everyday work even if they're not going to directly use it, right? So it encompasses all groups of people who would be specifically interested in what's being spoken about in a specific community group. So for example, I'm part of the privacy community group, and at the moment we are looking at some new APIs that are being introduced, such as the first party sets API. It's a privacy API which is predominantly run by Google, and they want to know, how do we feel about this new API? They haven't launched it yet, so before they launch it, before it becomes a standard, before they take it to a working group to produce a deliverable, they want to know, how do we feel about it? And that's what community groups are for generally. And then you have other kinds of groups: business groups, interest groups, permanent groups. Business groups are mainly for companies. Permanent groups, you have to be voted in to be part of that group. And then interest groups, anyone can join again, and it's kind of like, you know, as the name suggests, fielding our interest for things, sharing your interest for things, etc. So how can you get involved with web standards? Well, there are multiple ways to do that. First, you want to create an account, and you do that by going to participate on w3c.org, scrolling all the way down, and then you want to request an account. You fill out all the information on the form and then hit continue, and somebody will approve your request, and then you have an account. Once you join that, let's say you wanted to join a working group, you go to participate again, and then you click the working groups link, then you click the list of working groups, and you scroll down, find the working group you're interested in, which one you want to join. Let's say I wanted to join the HTML working group. I would click on HTML summary, and then I would find out how to join. There may be unique rules about joining this particular working group, and assuming there aren't any, or that I meet them or whatever, then I can go back and then I can just hit join the group, and then the process will allow me to join the working group. Somebody may have to approve my participation in the working group, but that's really it. Now let's say I wanted to join a community group. On the same groups page where the working groups are, ww3c.org/groups, I would scroll down and see the community and business groups, and then I would click on list of community groups. And there are significantly more community groups than there are working groups, 369 community groups. And again, I would do the same thing, scroll until I find the community group I'm interested in. Let's say I wanted to join the Accessible Infographics community group. I would then click summary. And again, at the bottom of the page, there's a join group button, and I can just hit join group, and that's it. I'm now part of the community group. And from there, I will have information about meetings. I'll get emails about meetings, any special events, any special discussions happening. and all of that kind of stuff, and a mailing list that I can also contribute to. Some groups may have a Slack channel or an IRC channel that corresponds to the group where asynchronous conversations can happen. But apart from that, that's kind of mainly it on how to join a group, how to get involved. If you think you want to be a part of a specific working group and your organization is not a member, speak to your company first. Find out if they are interested in being a member of the W3C, and if they are, then we can go through a whole process of that. I won't go into that today because I think that's outside the scope, but there is another process on how to become a member. And that's kind of it for me. If you want to follow me, I am Lola Odelola on Twitter and GitHub, if anyone follows people on GitHub. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Take care.